What's up, guys? Welcome back. I'm once again joined by Dr. D, the Doctor of Star Wars.
What's up, guys? I mean, I wouldn't say myself as the Doctor of Star Wars, but I appreciate it.
Heck yeah. And I'm really excited because today we're going to talk about Knights of the Old Republic. Specifically, we're going to focus on 2, and as most of you probably know, Star Map is a reference of Knights of the Old Republic 1. And I adore Knights of the Old Republic, but I was just telling you that I'm a bit of a poser because I've actually never beaten either of them. I always get my butt kicked at the end of both. But I've replayed the heck out of them. The last time I played one a couple years ago, and it was actually like on my phone. I'd play it on my break. It was like my phone break game for a while at work.
Yeah, I played it on mobile as well. I did the same when I was at work from time to time.
Good man.
Absolutely. I mean, what's the point in working if you can't, play your video games?
Mm-hmm.
But no, what we're gonna say?
So, Knights of the Old Republic 2, you're a big advocate of 2 specifically. Why is that?
So, I have such a strong love for the game, and it's been that way ever since I played it for the first time when I was a kid, when it came out in 2005. Over here, it was 2004 in America. Europe got it early 2005. But I've always come back to this game because I feel it's as important to Star Wars as the original trilogy. In ways that if you watch the original trilogy, everybody's gonna want to be a Jedi, feel the Force and stuff like that. It's almost like Lucas intended for that, for people to just want to be Luke. So the way I see Knights of the Republic 2, it's almost like the antithesis to that. The original trilogy says these are the good things about the Force. It grants you power, it grants you the ability to look after your friends and family. But then Knights 2, it flips it, and it's like, okay, you want to be a Jedi, you want to feel the Force. Well, these are the things that aren't so good about it, like being able to hear people die across the galaxy from different places, and then being able to hear, like, just the chaos of the universe itself, and having to be in tune with that, and having that heightened awareness. So yeah, you also get this impression that KOTOR 2 is more of a critique of Star Wars, but done in a way that's not meant to tear it down and talk about it in a negative way, kind of like The Last Jedi does, but that's not the focus here. It's almost like, it's a critique of Star Wars, but then it strengthens your ideas of the Force and the Jedi and everything they believe in. I'd say narratively, it's probably one of the best games I've ever played. I just wish it had been completed, and Obsidian would have had the time to finish it off, because it really falls away at Malachor. Well, I'd say after Krea's monologue on Dantooine, the game really falls off, because they rushed it.
Yeah. I was reading about that online. That's interesting. I was reading about the game a little bit yesterday, and I did. I guess I didn't really notice, but I got a sense of that too. To me, it was just like once you get to Malachor, everything feels really depressing. But maybe that is because they rushed it and you feel less engaged.
Yeah, because everything's just grey rock around you until you get to the Traeus Academy, which even then, that's just a lot of retexturing, because it's all the hallways. It's just for about 5 meters you go forward, and then after 5 meters it's just a retexture of everything that you've just seen.
That's so funny.
And if you can even look at the character models, they're like so low res and so low detailed of the enemies that you fight, because there's a couple of unique ones in there that you don't see in the rest of the game, but they're like PS1 graphics. And yeah, it's just like, yeah, you can tell that they only had 18 months for this game.
That's so funny. There's also really one thing that cracked me up last time I played 2 was there's a really specific mannerism that all the characters do. I'm big into, like, for some reason I notice the mannerisms a lot.
I do.
Yeah. And so there's one where they go, like, they kind of like shrug their head, and like it's like this weird, like, head turn. It's almost like it's like a nod, but it's like they go to the side a little bit.
It's almost like they tilt the head, like in a weird way, like they've got a kink in the neck.
Yeah. It's like halfway like they're agreeing with you, and then halfway like they're stretching or something. And when when you get to Star Scion at the end, there's like a close up of him, and when it showed the close up of him, it's supposed to be all menacing and scary. He does the little thing. It was it ruined my immersion.
Yeah, it's like they do the head kink, but then yeah, they also do the head turn, because when they do the head turn, they also do that weird hand gesture as well.
Yeah, like they're in a conversation, yeah.
Yeah.
So that Scion doing that was like, I was like, what's going on?
Or there'll be the odd time where Cray is talking about something and she'll do like, she'll put her hands on her hips and do like a head sway.
Yeah, man, the mannerisms of that game are so funny because I feel like there's only like 3 of them, and so you see the same stupid ones all the time. But
I feel like it comes from an era where like there was a level of goofiness to Star Wars games that gave them a lot of charm.
Yeah, no,
I mean, you look at Bounty Hunter is a good one. The way that like people run off and flail their arms around when you shoot someone, like
Which one?
especially on like Coruscant or something on Bounty Hunter.
Right. Yeah. No. Yeah. That is a lot of fun. They had to make the menacing aspect of Jango Fett like fun and goofy for the kids.
Yep.
Yeah. Which I love. I do love the lightheartedness. Even in like dark moments, there's a lot of lightheartedness to Star Wars, a lot of comedy. But
yeah, even in Republic Commando, because like, yeah, sorry, I cut you off then.
Good.
Okay. Even with Republic Commando, it's meant to be like a very like more realistic and very gritty story. But then you've got Scorch in the back cracking wise every 2 seconds. It's like Star Wars needs that. It needs that comic relief. But the problem is that a lot of Star Wars of now goes too far with that, and rather than having one character that's the comic relief, every character needs to be a comedian now, and it kills the idea completely because it removes all tension.
Yeah, right. It's cool to have. Well, the original trilogy did it so well because there was comedy, but the comedy was specific to each character. Like Han's little quips were so different than like C-3PO's complaining and stuff. But they really forced the comedy in the new, not to brag on the new ones all the time, but the sequels, yeah, like everyone was kind of like a comedian in a similar way, like that they fly now and stuff. It just didn't work. They just it's almost like they jotted down a bunch of random jokes and then kind of threw them at all the characters and didn't really tailor it to each one.
Yeah. But it's like, even like there are aspects of comedy like through all of Star Wars, but the way it's done in at least the original trilogy is that obviously you have Han and 3PO's rapport, but outside of that, if there's any sort of like comic relief or anything, it's isolated. So you've got R2 and 3PO having their shtick, but you've not got Han interjecting in the scene and trying to crack wise as well. Otherwise, it'd kill it.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, you're totally right. Dang. So and then of course, yeah, in Knights of the Old Republic, they do that very well. There are numerous characters in each game that have their own sense of comedy, but it's different for every one of them. It's just good writing. That's it. And I know that it's easy to say, oh, good writing versus bad writing, but I mean that really is what it is. You just got to think a little bit about the character before you give them lines.
Yeah, it's tone management because I mean, I guess it can be done where you have a group of comedians in a situation, but it all depends on the character telling the joke. It's like, would this suit this character? It's like with Atten, how when he's very sarcastic, but then he's also witty, it suits his character because he's a draw of Han. It wouldn't suit it if he was making like dumb like 3-year-old jokes.
Right.
Like if he was like saying Bantha Poodoo and stuff like that all the time, it wouldn't work. It'd be too. It wouldn't be very becoming of his character to say it.
I say Bantha Poodoo all the time. That's my thing.
I say Criff a lot.
Oh, that's a good one, wow. And then there's like Frackin', that's like the F word, the Star Wars F word.
Yep.
Yeah.
Yeah. I remember being a kid and not really knowing what the word slag was, and obviously over here in the UK it's a derogatory term for a hoe. So when Atten's saying like we would have been blasted slag back there, I'm like, say that again.
Oh no, that's so funny. What the heck? Dang.
Yeah.
We don't have any equivalent like that over here with the Star Wars slang, thankfully. That's so funny. Wow.
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, okay, so yeah, you were the first person, we were talking about this earlier, and you did. I do want to hear your comparison of Knights of the Old Republic to episode, what is it, 8? Yeah, The Last Jedi.
8, yeah.
Yeah. So it's a very intelligent point. I've never thought about that, but they do critique the Force, and they both have a sense of nihilism in a way, and they do the same thing. And Knights of the Old Republic 2, obviously, I agree, does it way better years before. And then everyone thought Rian Johnson was a genius for kind of doing it way worse, many years later. So,
Yep.
Can you get into that, the comparison between the two?
Yeah, sure. I guess the way you look at it first is by one of the most obvious comparisons that people make is 𝘊𝘏𝘕𝘛𝘛𝘌𝘙, the Jedi Master, and Luke, and the character trajectory within the film, or the game, or the story. Covers both within the story. And I feel like I've seen a lot of people make that particular comparison, but I've rarely seen people expand on it and why they're different, like why they're the same but different, why one's done well, why one isn't. And I think one of the biggest things about it is that even when 𝘊𝘏𝘕𝘛𝘛𝘌 leaves the Jedi and he becomes disillusioned with the Order and almost disillusioned with the Force, he never stops being a hero. He stays on Nar Shaddaa, and he went to Nar Shaddaa because there's a lot of life there. It's hardest to detect someone on a planet that's got a lot of life on it. But he always made a point of trying to help people out and, you know, trying to do the right thing, even if he didn't brand himself as a Jedi. With Luke, it's the obvious. He doesn't choose to walk away from a corrupt Jedi Order. He has it forcibly taken from him, which is not the same. And people act like it is, and it isn't. He loses the Order, then becomes disillusioned with everything. It's like, okay, so you're going to retreat to an island and do nothing, whereas you've got characters in Knights of the Republic, all of the Jedi, even though they might walk away from the Order or be in hiding, they still do their best effort to do good. I mean, you look at Vrook, he's on Dantooine trying to help Kunda with the mercenaries. Kavar, he's on Onderon trying to help Queen Talia against Vaklu. Lorna Vash goes to Korriban. Well, in the base game, she goes to Korriban and dies because she's still trying to do good. But yeah, there isn't this sort of like nihilism towards heroism. It's more nihilism towards an all-seeing eye, an all-controlling power, which, you know, Kreia lays into the Force for that. She goes on a tangent about how she hates the Force because it seems to have a will. And yeah, with The Last Jedi, it doesn't explore any of that, like why someone might become disillusioned with the Force against something that's like not personal. With Luke, it's very personal. He loses the Jedi Order and he gives up because he lost his Order. He doesn't continue to be a hero. He doesn't continue to you know, fight the First Order, and most of all, he doesn't continue to protect his family. It's a very selfish act that he does, and you can make the argument of, well, it was the Jedi Code that was keeping him that way, but it's like it wasn't, because he was doing heroic things before he became a Jedi.
Right.
That sort of character doesn't leave you. And again, which is explored in Knights 2, how they might leave the Jedi behind, but they're still good people and will still seek to do good. And I think for me, that is one of the things that I really hate about the way Luke's portrayed in that. It's not that he lost faith in the Jedi that bothers me. It's not that he walked away from everything. It's the fact that he stopped trying to be a good person.
Yeah, and that's what Mark Hamill didn't like about it either, right? He was like, yeah, the most optimistic guy in the galaxy, and he's, yeah. The weird thing about how they left him in 7 to me was, I thought everyone agreed with this. It was obvious that he was sort of, he had taken the place of Yoda. He had become the hermit who was like waiting for the hero that he needed. But yeah, and then 8 comes along, and it's just, they totally debase that, and it's just like he's just run away and given up, which is it could have been effective, but like it just doesn't work for Luke as a character.
Yeah.
Yeah, and dang, yeah. It's really
I think if he'd have come back with Rey when she leaves Actor, I think if he'd have made the decision then to go back with her, it wouldn't have been as bad. Because then it's like, oh well, somebody knows I exist. Someone's actually come out to find me.
Yeah.
Maybe I was wrong. You know, maybe I should go with them. Because then it's just Luke being afraid, which is fine.
Yeah.
But he doubles down on it and then has his epiphany, and it takes a very bad puppet of Yoda to do that. And I have issues with that scene as well, which we can talk about in another conversation.
Sure, absolutely. And I would argue that Knights of the Old Republic 2, the fact that all the characters are, I mean, if you choose the light side and stuff, all the characters are still trying, makes it sadder and more like powerful. And there's a lot of this party characters you can like ask to join the Jedi Order at the end, right? There's like Bao-Dur and stuff. You can ask them to join the Jedi, and they will, which is cool because you're against insurmountable odds, and if you choose the light side, you can still try as hard as you can, even though the setting and the situation is so dark. I remember as a kid seeing the Dantooine Enclave all destroyed was so sad. That was really like a dark moment. Yeah, a dark point in the game.
It's like a blow. When it does the panning shot and you see it all ruined, it's just like a punch to the gut. Because it's like, man, I spent so much time though just chilling out because Dantooine in Nights 1 is such a great place. I love the
coziest. Yeah, it's the coziest place in the game. Yeah.
Yeah, I'd say the terrace apartment is a bit cozier. I do prefer the music to that a bit more.
I see, yeah, that's a good one too.
Because I like how they wove Luke's theme into it, or the Force theme, whatever you call it. I call it Luke's theme. But yeah, they wove that into it, and it's just really well done.
Yeah. And so, weirdly enough, the other thing I wanted to get into is how I think the two biggest complaints for 2 is that, yeah, it's rushed at the end, but also that it is just like too sad. And I've never done the dark side playthrough. I discovered only a few months ago that in Knights of the Old Republic 1, I mean, I guess this makes sense. I just never thought about it because I don't think about like the dark side stuff. If you go to the dark side, you become like the new head of the Sith Academy on Korriban and stuff, which is crazy to me. And I guess in 2, you can like kill a lot of your party members if you go evil, which is also like, oh my god, I didn't realize it got that dark. I thought everyone would just be like mad at you.
Technically, yeah. I mean, depends on what you're pulling from, because the base game doesn't go too much into it, but the restored content mod, you have all the scenes with your companions on Malachor, and it adds a lot of depth to it, because there's a cool scene where they all challenge Kreia and fail. And then you come in and beat Kreia, and it's really satisfying after you see her like decimate your entire party. It's just satisfying to go in and say, right, you've kicked the asses of all my teammates. Now I'm gonna kick yours.
That's super cool. I didn't know that.
But yeah, with the dark side ending, you kind of Kreia dies. You cast her into the core of Malachor, which I like how they did it, because it's an homage to how Palpatine dies, even with the sound effects that when she hits the core as well.
That's cool.
But yeah, you basically end up becoming like the ruler of the Trace Academy and use Malachor, I guess, as your domain or whatever. But it kind of just fades out to the galaxy, and then cuts to black, implying that in the third game, if they'd have gone on the dark side ending, which I don't think they would have, you would have sort of like sent an army of Sith into the Republic to fight it.
Jeez.
Yeah.
Wow.
But I much prefer the endings to the light side ending, because you can tell that that's the one that they cared for. That's the one that they wanted to make sure was at least somewhat finished.
Always
with
is.
The dark side ending, it's kind of just, you kill Kreia, you're evil, you're the new Sith Lord. Well,
doesn't Kreia die in the light side ending as well, or no?
She does, but it's more of like her choice to let herself go.
Right.
She more or less finds peace within the Force, as much as she hates it.
That's a better arc for her character, right? Because she's been against it this whole time, and then at the end she accepts the truth.
Yeah.
Yeah. Wow, it's very interesting. And what do you? I'd like to hear you talk about Atris, because she's always been a really interesting character for me. She also has a really dark and depressing end. I've always liked that type of character that's like that's so what would you call that, like lawful evil almost, right? I mean, she's so pure that she's flipped around and she's bad now. It's almost like nuclear Gandhi from Civilization, it's like it's cool.
It's like, I think it's like puritanical.
Yeah, that's it.
The word.
Yeah.
But yeah, I like Atris because she's not she's like Windu, but turned up to the extreme.
Mm-hmm. Yeah,
I'd say.
Very true.
Like if Windu didn't have the pad and he let his darkness sort of consume him a bit more, she'd be very much like him. It does make you wonder what her, because I know she was a historian, but she sat on the council as well. Makes you wonder what her position was like, because Windu was Master of the Order in Revenge of the Sith, whereas Yoda was Grand Master. So it makes you. I always felt like Atris was Master of the Order. She was the one giving the orders and stuff like that.
Yeah.
Although, and because they do make a light sort of like nod to the fact that Kavar was Grandmaster, but it's there isn't enough there to make a definite sort of like statement about it. Whereas with Atris, she's very more forceful. She's very more, even in Mitra's sentencing, she's the one sort of like acting as the head judge.
Yeah. Wow. And then what do you think about her? What do you imagine? What's your headcanon of her fate or whatever? Because you can leave her in there with like the Sith holocrons, and then a lot of
I get a lot of satisfaction from leaving her with the holocrons.
That's great.
Because I love but hate Atris. Even in the Revan novel, she's a bit of a dick.
Yeah.
For no reason. Even to Revan.
That's so interesting.
I mean, I kind of get it because he was Darth Revan, but I guess the Jedi would always have that sort of like wariness of him.
Right, which Mace has for Anakin, so that checks out. Yeah. And that leads me to my next question. Actually, what do you think about the Revan novel? Do you like it? Do you not like it? There's a lot of conjecture.
I like certain parts of it, but I can't escape the fact that it was made. The novel was commissioned because they wanted to tie into the Old Republic, and they wanted a way for Revan to appear in the game. 300 years after the fact. So the whole thing of him being Vitiate's prisoner for 300 years, I can get on board with that to an extent, but there's a lot of stuff I don't like about it. I like the concept of Nathema. I think that's a very cool place, like a very cool thing, just to have a complete dead spot in the Force.
Yeah.
Because Kreia mentions it in Knights 2, and obviously Knights 2 is all about like dead places in the Force and the echoes that it creates. So it's on brand for that, but I feel like Mitra herself was handled very badly because Drew Karpyshyn didn't really understand her character because he didn't write Knights 2. But everything with Revan and everything with Lord Scourge, I am a big fan of. Especially if you listen to the audiobook. I can't remember who narrates it now, but he does a very good Darth Scourge voice. Well, Lord Scourge even, he's not a Darth. But yeah, that's something that I would recommend people check out, because it does add a bit more flavour to the novel when you've got the voices as well. The Darth Nyris performance is very good. The Canderous performance is very good as well. And everything just works like sound effect wise.
Sweet. Yeah, I'll have to check that one out again. The one that I read the crap out of that I loved was the Knights of the Old Republic comic book with Zane.
Yeah.
Those are so fun, man. I love those.
I mean, that even touches on the more darker elements of the Jedi when they execute the younglings because they fear an entire generation of Darksiders.
Yeah, it's a super interesting plot where it's like the whole the question of morality, which is all about what Knights of the Old Republic is about. Is very striking how they think they're doing the right thing, but it's like, they have to do evil. It's a classic question, but the way in which they go about it is very interesting and dark and cool. And then the character Zane is like the perfect guy. He's like the crappiest Jedi, but he's the one to survive because he was out trying to pull his charge. And it's very cool.
Yeah.
It's very awesome. One of the coolest premises.
Interesting point about that, because it brings us back to Zez Kyle. Because two of the two reasons that he left the Order were that, one, he questioned the ethics of the Jedi using the Force to reprogram Revan's mind to lead them to the Starforge, because it's like, he even asked the question, was Revan actually redeemed? Or was it a forcible change in which there's no redemption in that? Because it's not character growth. It's just a new character. So Revan, I've always said it, that Revan in Knights 1 isn't really a character, he's a collection of memories, and outside of that, you are the character, because Revan's a vessel for the player. That's why he always has a mask, much like Master Chief in Halo.
Yeah, I totally agree with that, and actually, that's my biggest. No matter how good a Revan book could be, it's weird to flesh out Revan as a character because he is just whoever the player wants him to be, and so it was weird for me to read. Revan as a character that someone has taken and made their own, and people, the vast majority of people seem to love that, and they've all agreed that Revan should look like Keanu Reeves and stuff, you see that and that's fine, I guess, but I also like just the mode of the game, the fact that Revan can be whoever, and that's obviously that makes sense for the story, as you just said. Yeah, Revan is someone who used to be, and now the player is kind of taking over, but is almost just associated with that character, not necessarily that character in and of themselves.
It's like one degree of separation, sort of thing.
Exactly.
But I guess the way I've always seen Revan, like I said, he's always been a vessel, but it's why, again, like why I don't like certain aspects of the Revan novel. I don't like him being this almost like this character that is almost as a preset, because now it canonizes certain events that happen in the game, meaning it takes away the agency from the player.
Exactly, I agree. Yeah,
Because it's like, oh well, I want to have a blue lightsaber, but I know Revan wielded a green one at this time, so it kind of hinders my freedom when it comes to playing an RPG.
I fully agree. Yeah, and then I also thought, I mean, it makes sense that like Revan and Basselor are together, but it's also just kind of weird. I mean, and I would love to be in his position, you know, of course, who wouldn't? But it was also just weird reading them as a couple and everything. I don't know. There was something about it where I was like, this. Yeah, I mean, exactly as you said, it takes away any of the imagination that you would have had playing the games and kind of injecting yourself and your own version of the story into it, which I think is an important aspect of those games and should kind of remain pure if possible.
Yeah, because it gives them replay value as well.
Exactly.
Because you can go back through and you can be like, oh well, if I'm playing on the dark side, and now I can imagine how this version of Revan would be if his personality didn't change, if all as the Jedi really did was wipe away his memories of who he was, but his core character was still the same. So I always try to like make a Revan that is as canon as possible, but I like having that little bit of darkness in him as well. So like there's certain times in the game where I'll make like a dark side choice, because I think it's what Revan would do, because it's his old personality still trying to break back through.
Absolutely, that's great. That's a great way to play it.
Which is what you see in the novel anyway, when he gets the mask back and he just hurls a load of lightning at Darth Nihilus, which is a cool moment.
Yeah,
I've got to be honest, because reading her death is another satisfying one. But yeah, I don't know how I feel about 𝘊𝘈𝘕𝘛𝘌𝘈 as well as a concept, because Knights 2 and the Revan novel, they kind of have a disconnect with it, because Kreia talks about how like worlds like Malachor and Korriban are on the outside of the space of the true Sith, and that the Sith live outside of the galaxy. They're an extra galactic threat, like the Yuuzhan Vong.
Oh wow!
Like the true Sith Empire. But then 𝘊𝘈𝘕𝘛𝘌 is pretty close to Korriban in the Old Republic, and it's like, is that really is it outside of the galaxy then? Because you're basically saying that the seat of power for the Sith is within, like, might be in the unknown regions, but it's still within the galaxy. So it should still kind of be a frontier world for the Sith, not the capital.
Yeah, the origins of the Sith seem to have there seems to be a lot of discord depending on like what you read and where you look. They can't totally agree.
Yeah.
And the Sith were originally, I remember reading that they were originally a race, and I forget what planet they came from, but it wasn't like a totally unknown Yuuzhan Vong faraway place. At least
I believe they actually did come from Korriban along with the Dashad.
That's what I thought. Yeah, like reading about like Nagasato and stuff. It's all kind of right there.
Yeah. Ajunta Paul especially, because with being the first Sith Lord, because it was a time before they had the rank of Darth, which later came with Darth Andedu. But yeah, when you're talking about the five from the Valley of the Dark Lords, it's a time before all of that. So they came to Korriban, and the Sith worshipped them as gods because they wielded the Force.
Right. Yeah. That's cool. I like that. But yeah, I guess that the new concept that they're from far away kind of throws a wrench into all that, which is too bad.
It's one of the things about the expanded universe that did bother me in the later years, like 2008 onwards. They screwed with a lot of the continuity. I mean, look at how much they did with the Clone Wars. That overrides Tartakovsky's work, overrides the comics and some of the novels as well. Like, a lot of the the Clone Wars overrides Dark Rendezvous and even steals some stuff from it. And that's a very good novel. One of the only few novels on Yoda that George Lucas ever permitted to be written.
Wow, I haven't read that one. I'll have to check it out.
Yeah, there's a key moment in it, which they used in the Clone Wars, which is when Dooku has a vision of Yoda and what he'd be like on the dark side, and it shakes him to his core. It's like, because you think the Emperor was bad, Yoda on the dark side is basically a walking nightmare. Like, I'd probably even say worse than Abeloth.
That's crazy. Oh my god.
Yeah. Yeah,
I'll
yeah.
check that out. That is one thing I hate about all the newer stuff, Disney or not. Clone Wars kind of counts. Clone Wars is like a bridge between the old canon and the new. Yeah, they take whatever the heck they want. It's like they don't respect the old stuff at all because they just blatantly steal from it, and it's so sad, man.
Because they don't have, I just don't think they have that care for it because it's not their work. But then they fail to realize that when you take something out of context like that, it no longer becomes that thing. So if you take Revan out of the Mandalorian Wars and then plop him into some other war, he's no longer Revan because the threat isn't the same.
Right.
The locations where the battles are taking place isn't the same, so he doesn't make the same choices. If it was another threat that wasn't the Mandalorians, maybe Revan wouldn't have gone to war.
It's a great point. Yeah, the situations these characters are in defines the character so much. I've always thought that as well, and most people don't seem to understand that or identify with that. But yeah, so thinking about how the player can kind of choose what happens to the characters more or less, or like at least inject their sense of the character into Revan and so forth. What's your headcanon for the character's fate in 2, like Atten and Baldor and all those guys? What do you think? What do you imagine happens to them?
So I imagine that Baldor, Atten, Mikal, or Disciple, Handmaiden / Brianna, the companions that can become Jedi, I believe that they do rebuild the Jedi Order, with Mikal becoming the Grand Master.
Agreed.
I feel like Canderous continue to fight in wars, rebuilding the Mandalorian clans, so that by the time of the Old Republic, they're strong enough that they can take a few worlds and have their own territories again. T3 and HK, well, we know what happens to HK. He kind of just goes around the galaxy from owner to owner until he ends up back with Revan in the Foundry, which is never really explained that well, but you kind of just get that basis.
Yeah.
T3, T3 goes with Mitra to Nathema.
Makes sense.
Mitra herself goes to Nathema as well. KOTOR, I'm not sure about KOTOR. I feel like he probably returned to the galaxy and continued to help rebuild the Republic, as his programming was that. And that's about it, really.
I totally agree. It's man, if there's to be a novel, it should be like about that, because
I know the plans. Well, what some of the plans were for Knights 3, which were that Mitra and T3 were meant to go outside of the galaxy and meant to explore all these new locations and all these new planets, and you were meant to meet like at a very early Yuuzhan Vong.
Whoa,
as well.
Yeah, Canderous hints at them in, I think, 1 when he in his war stories. Yeah. Oh man.
Yeah, he talks about an asteroid that just like hyperspace jumps out of the area and into wild space.
See, that is so cool,
It's a really
man.
good story, though.
Oh, that's so cool. I love when the games reference the more, I guess it's not necessarily obscure, but for like, the lay person playing those games, it is like new stuff. I remember the first time I was really exposed to the expanded universe was in the Clone Wars game, that vehicle-based game with the cool tanks.
Yeah.
And
I got that on my Xbox, actually.
yeah, it's great. Yeah, I was replaying it like a year ago, and when Anakin goes to Ren Var, he talks with 𝘊𝘆𝘆𝘕𝘈𝘆's like spirit or holocron or whatever. And that I was like, who the heck is 𝘊𝘆𝘆𝘆𝘆, right? And so I remember I googled like 𝘊𝘆𝘆𝘆𝘆, and then sure enough I found the Tales of the Jedi comic books, and like that was it. That one little scene introduced me to the expanded universe, quite literally. So stuff like that is always really exciting and cool, especially when it's done right. And hinting at it so briefly and so obscurely with Canderous was so cool. And yeah, it would have been nice to see them touch on it a little bit more. But yeah, I love your headcanon of them sort of rebuilding the Mandalorians, rebuilding the Jedi, because that seems like the most congruent, correct ending, I would say. And then it also kind of, obviously, things happen with Mitra, and Revan's fate is already like written and understood. And is he dead at that time? He dies when does he die? I forget.
He dies in Shadow of Revan, which is one of the expansions for the Old Republic, which came out in, I think it was like 2014 or something like that.
Okay.
Where I do not like the story that they give him. Where because of his split personality and his memories and stuff, like because he developed split personality disorder, they decided to have him have this spiritual identity crisis. So then his spirit within the Force literally splits in two. So his dark side goes back to his body and repossesses it because it doesn't want to die, whereas his light side wants to move on and connect with the Force. And I'm just like, it's a bit much.
It's a little too
I know
literal.
Revan's a loved character,
Yeah.
but stop bringing him back, because it's the same issue I have when they keep bringing characters back when Disney do it. If I didn't have an issue with Revan, then I wouldn't have a leg to stand on when I critique Disney for it. So,
yeah. And that seems to takes the duality of his character very literally, like almost to where it's just stupid. It sounds like.
yeah, I love how Knights of the Old Republic 2 tackles Revan, because they don't really use him as a character; they use him as an idea.
Yeah.
Much like Batman, rather than Bruce Wayne. So he becomes a symbol of hope. Basically, he becomes a symbol of the Republic's strength, and so he becomes a martyr, which is all you can really do with that character, because again, like with him not so much having a character in Knights 1, it's up to the player what their headcanon. He can't really do much with that, so the best way to do it is just to say, yeah, these are his achievements and these are the things that the galaxy recognized him for and made him into.
I fully agree. I'm 100% in agreement.
Yeah.
And so my last question was, what are your thoughts on the potential? It's always like it's gonna happen and it won't. The remakes for 1 and 2.
It's a difficult one, and I'm still in a split mind of whether I actually want it or not, because there's enough. I feel like there's enough charm in the game already that they, other than maybe a graphics overhaul or done in a new engine, they don't need a remake. They could do with a remaster. I'm not opposed to that, but
right.
when it's a full-on remake and like the hiring writers and stuff, it's like, well, if it's a remake, why are you hiring writers? That's a red flag to me.
Yeah, because it's already perfect as is.
I do not want anything changed.
Right.
I do not want any. Maybe you could get in touch with the old Obsidian team and just say, hey, what we are looking to do with the finale for the second game, maybe we could help you finish it for this remake. So then players get the full story. That's all I would do. Just expand on what's already there. But I think in terms of my opinion on the current state of it, I'd like to see it because I'd like to see what can be done with the game. But then that's me having faith in the developers, and to a point I do, because it's Aspire. But then I look at Battlefront and how that released, and I'm just like, nah, man. I'd rather keep the memories of the good games that I've got than play a newer version and have those ruined. Because Star Wars I kind of had that with Star Wars for a long time after the sequels. I don't want to go through with the games.
Yeah, I totally agree with that as well. I would say I feel like mods are just the way to go if you can get them to work and stuff. I always have issues with them, but yeah,
Steam, get KOTOR 2 on Steam, because then you can do the workshop and then it's all done for you, one touch of a button.
And you said 2 has what is it called, where they kind of flesh out the ending? Like there's a mod or something. Restored content. Yeah. Okay, cool. Yeah. I will have to check that out. Yeah, I did. Go ahead.
I just said there's a separate mod as well. The M478 Droid World. You need that as well because it's separate from the restored content mod because it's its own planet. And that is one thing that, other than maybe the map, Obsidian didn't actually get time to really work on, other than the map and the opening cutscene for the dialogue sequences. But when you get into like the main hub of the world, all like the voice acting is done by the community of modders. I mean, it's not the same like level as you would have like from a proper studio, but it's still a solid attempt, and I still go back to it and I still enjoy it for what it is, because it's that passion that's there for the game.
Yeah,
and you can see it.
That's a whole planet. That's a very that's quite the mod, man.
Yeah, I just wish that someone would go for Knights of the Republic 1 and put Slayer on it, because that was part of the content for Knights 1.
Whoa, yeah. That's cool. Yeah, they need to do something like that. Almost just like work with the modders. If they want to do a remaster or whatever, they should add the stuff that was initially intended to be there. And obviously the graphics make them a little bit better. Maybe add some more mannerisms to the character.
Yeah, I mean, I hear a lot of people saying, "Oh, make the combat real-time combat." It's like, no. I like it how it is. I like it how it is. It's an RPG. Sorry, fair wind. It's an RPG. You know, it's meant to be a Dungeons and Dragons Star Wars. So
Yeah.
keep it that way.
Yeah, I actually have no problems
I-
with it. Usually I am annoyed by combat like that in games. Like, I just... Like Final Fantasy and stuff like that, I usually just don't... That's turn-based, right? I think.
Yeah,
Yeah.
well, I'd say KOTOR does it in a different way because
Yeah.
with Final Fantasy, your characters are static in a battle and they only move when they're doing attacks and stuff.
Yeah, I don't like
Whereas
that.
with Knights, you've got the freedom of movement as well. So it's still, it doesn't feel restrictive even though it's turn-based.
It's a perfect... Yeah, it's a perfect, like, mesh of... Like an action game and then, yeah, just turn-based combat. I never had any issues with it. It's kind of addicting in a way. It makes sense for the game, too.
Yeah, same. Plus, I like that you can pause it and you can sort of like cue your moves like you could with an RPG. But then, yeah, it's just having that third-person camera that's the chase camera. Yeah, just gives you that freedom over it to have that freedom of movement. Because I mean, even with Baldur's Gate 3, my issue is that you can do turn-based, you can turn turn-based off when you're doing exploration, but I still feel like the movement itself is very restrictive. Like you can't sprint or anything when you're in exploration mode, which I feel like was a very bad part of the design, because it feels like movement is all sluggish and very primitive in the way it's designed. But then you've got force speed and stuff, and your alacrity stims for Knights 1 and 2. It just gives you that extra boost, and I think a lot of people want to be able to move quickly around a map that they already know.
Yes.
Like if you're exploring for the first time, it's great, but when you've got games like Baldur's Gate 3 or KOTOR, and the whole point is to replay them and do things differently, you don't want to be slugging it through a map for most of your time playing. You want to get from point A to point B and do the things you want to do.
Yeah, no, I totally agree. So, yeah, Knights 2, to you, it represents the sort of the questions about the Force and the Jedi and the not to use the term differently, the dark side of being a Jedi. And I do think that Kreia is the perfect character for that, because her character has this perfect irony where she wants to get rid of the Force, and like she is also cut from the Force while she's trying to do this. So it's such a cool, sinister plot, and I fully agree with you that it questions the light side and the dark side and the sort of duality of that, and tries to sort of spearhead that and go farther than that in such a powerful way. And you were again the first person that I know has mentioned how The Last Jedi is sort of a poor man's Knights 2 in a lot of ways, that kind of totally misses the mark. And it is so funny because the people who like The Last Jedi do think it's genius commentary on the Force and morality and stuff. And yeah, I would say Knights 2 takes the cake in terms of that. The one thing I can always go ahead.
I'll go.
I was gonna say the one thing I can always say about the sequels, and specifically The Last Jedi, is that I remembered very little from them. I watched it and I sat down in the theater, I watched it, I left the theater, and I retained so little, which is like I can't say that for most movies. That's such a sign to me that it was just like nothing happened.
I remember a few scenes, but nothing in terms of like what was said.
Right.
I can remember visuals. Yeah. So I remember the Yoda scene with Luke, and I really only remember that scene because of how much I despise it. I remember the scene with Snoke on the bridge of the Supremacy when he's throwing hooks around, and you've got that other officer there just looking at him like, what the fuck are you talking about? I really, because the guy who plays him is called Ade Edmondson. He's very, very popular in Britain because he was in a lot of comedies back in the 80s and 90s.
Oh, cool.
So he was kind of like one of those actors where it's like, I appreciate Ryan including him, but it's not going to save the film yet. And then I remember the Luke and R2 scene on the Falcon, which I think I've brought this up previously. It is a scene I really, really like, because it kind of grabs you and it brings you back to A New Hope, and it really does it really well. It's the only time in the film Luke feels like Luke when he says to R2, that's cheating. Well, R2, sorry. When he says, that's cheating.
Yeah.
Because that side eye he gives him, it's just so much like Luke and R2 on Dagobah.
Wasn't that? I might be wrong, but I want to say I saw an interview where Mark Hamill said that was ad-libbed, and he like really wanted that to be in there.
I believe it was, yeah.
So there you go.
I partially feel like I partially feel like Rian Johnson had a day off, and then Mark Hamill was like, "Look, give me the camera.
Yeah.
I'm making a scene."
Man, poor guy. He tried to warn everyone. There's all those videos. You follow Jar Jar Abrams or whatever on YouTube. He has a million videos about Mark Hamill just like down talking, straight up like warning people, but like this is gonna not be good.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, he did kind of mellow on it after the fact, but I think Disney paid him off.
Yeah, for sure.
Say something nice about it in an interview for once.
Yeah, he was so sincere. Yeah, exactly. Yeah, he was so sincere in his anger towards it, and then he was so insincere in his like, well, it's okay, I guess. You know, so it's like clear that they just like told him to shut up, basically. I also thought Benicio del Toro in The Last Jedi was so weird to me. I couldn't get over that. He seems so out of place.
Yeah, I know what you mean. I hate the fact that they have been calling him a bastard as well. It's like Star Wars has its own words.
Yeah.
Use them. Like, and then, you know, fast forward to Rogue One Series 2, and you've got Bail Organa saying shit. It's like, Star Wars has its own world. It has its own dialect. It's what makes it unique. It's what makes it so fleshed out. It's what makes it easy to buy into. The fact that it's got all them things in its own world going for it.
Agreed.
You don't need to pull in this real world stuff. I mean, it goes a step further than that because it's about the dialogue itself. I don't know if I'm the only one, but when in the Obi-Wan series, when Obi-Wan and Leia are talking, Obi-Wan says something to Leia and he says the word dad. It feels very out of place. He should have said father because of the Shakespearean nature of Star Wars, as we discussed in our last video.
You're right. No one says dad. Yeah, wow.
He should exclusively use the words mother and father because they are the words. It's what we know of Star Wars to have that articulate language, because again, George based his work on Shakespeare, so he pulled in a lot of the way that words were constructed by Shakespeare in his plays.
Yeah, you're right. You're totally right, dude. Yeah, people don't get that at all. But it also doesn't seem to bug them, which is like, how are you not bugged by that? From my point of view, the Jedi. From my point of view, it's like that stuff just jumps out at me immediately, and I'm like, and this is in my last video. I've been doing those Canon Wars videos, and my Canon Wars 2 video, I talked about how like I still haven't seen it yet, but yeah, Andor looks. I said in the video, Andor looks like really good TV, and I've had enough people tell me that it's really great, that I believe it's great, but it just doesn't seem to fit with the rest of Star Wars in that exact way, and the way that the characters are written. In the way that the actions they perform, like I'm not saying it's not good, but it's just not like anything else in the Star Wars universe. And when you're writing in universe like that, you should try to have a little bit of glue. But yeah, it just seems like a completely different thing that almost shouldn't have the Star Wars name on it. So it's tough.
Yeah. To me, it feels out of place because it feels like one of those things where, yeah, like you said, a lot of people do say it's brilliant TV, and I'm sure it is, but it feels out of place. It feels like you could make that show in any universe, give it the same premise, you know, like give it a super weapon that's being built. You could find a way to fit it in bloody Transformers if you wanted to. The point is that it doesn't feel like Star Wars because it's not written to be a Star Wars show. It's written to be a TV show that's very good.
Yeah.
It's not written to be a good Star Wars show.
Exactly.
Which is almost like Tony Gilroy and Dave Filoni are the opposites of each other in terms of the bad points and what they don't get. Filoni's too obsessed with George Lucas's work that he can't make anything new. He can't do anything unique to him. Tony Gilroy is so apathetic towards Star Wars that he doesn't really want to make a show that's about Star Wars. He just wants to make a good TV show.
Exactly. Yeah, that's absolutely.
So it's like you've got like in Andor, you've got a complete lack of the Force. You've got a complete lack of the Jedi and everything. It's like you can at least mention it. You don't have to have a Jedi physically in it, but if you have these references to the Force, you know, you have these references to the Jedi. You can even have flashback scenes where like someone's at the Jedi Temple or something like that. It just makes it. It just reminds you, oh yeah, this is Star Wars because there's Jedi there. You know, people rag on that saying, oh well, what are you saying that Star Wars can't have Jedi? It's like, no, I'm not saying that, but you know, it feels less like Star Wars without those things. But it's about the themes as well, because I don't really feel like Andor's about love. Yeah. Primarily.
Definitely not.
There's the love angle in it and how it ends with the field and stuff, but it doesn't feel like it's the central focus of a character's motivation, whereas with Luke, it was. You know, his motivation wasn't to destroy the Death Star to become a rebel hero. Well, it kind of was in A New Hope, but as his character went on, it became more about doing the things that he does to protect his friends. He wasn't going up to, I mean, not once did he say, I'm going up to the Death Star to defeat the Emperor and end this war. It's, I'm going up to the Death Star to face my father and try and bring him back.
Right.
Whereas Andor, I feel, just doesn't have that. Maybe it does. I've not watched it like to the point where I could really say that I know every scene or anything like that, but I just don't get that feeling from it when I watch it, and I only really watched the first couple of episodes. I just got bored, to be quite frank.
Yeah, no, man, that's totally fair. I think the biggest mistake that I see is that Star Wars has such a broad view, and when there are specific things that happen or specific actions that are taken, you're supposed to get like glimpses of those things. Like it's such a bold, broad view of the world, of characters, and Andor like zeroes in, and we have like this. We get this. We're like looking at the world under a microscope now. And yeah, like you said, Jedi and the Force and all of these higher ideas aren't even mentioned. They're not even a presence anymore. And that's part of why it feels like it's taking place in a different world. But yeah, just the very way that it's written, the way that it's paced, the lens that we look through the universe in is so much more microscopic than anything else in Star Wars. Star Wars is supposed to be large, romantic, and like one of the big things that people say they love about Andor is that we see how evil the Empire is, like all these specific actions, and they're like the KGB and you know, Nazis and all that, and we see specific ways that they're wronging people, and we see specific ways in which they are evil, but I don't think that's necessary. We know they're bad. We know that that's who they're supposed to be, just visually, and again we see the evil. We do see the evil, but in the original trilogy, they do it in the biggest, most Star Wars way, which is to blow up an entire planet, right? And like that's the way you're supposed to see it in Star Wars. We're not looking at individual faces of people getting individually beaten and like losing their homes and turning into slaves or whatever. Maybe it would be cool to see like one glimpse of a bunch of people turn to slaves after like they lose the autonomy of their homeworld or something. But yeah, the individual nature of Andor is, I think, what removes it from the continuity of Star Wars, at least in my head, if I'm making any sense at all.
Yeah. I know what you're saying.
Yeah.
But, I mean, continuity-wise, for me, it'll always be Kyle Katarn that did everything that Cassian Andor did.
There you go. Yeah.
So they can try as they might. They're never replacing Kyle Katarn in my mind.
Mm-hmm.
But then there's a certain thing with how all this falls into place, because, like you said, you know, the pacing's wrong. That like just the lens that we look through, like because it's about character perspective as well, and your central figure and how they interact with the universe. I mean, what works with the original trilogy, what works with the prequel trilogy, what works with Knights 1 and Knights 2, hell, what even works with Doctor Who for the most part, is that the character that you're seeing the world through is someone who's for the most part new to it.
Yeah.
So if it's something like Anakin being a child and being introduced to the Force and stuff by Qui-Gon, Luke being shown the way of the Jedi by Obi-Wan, or your characters in Knights 1 and 2 being a blank slate for the most part, Revan losing his memories, Mitra being an exile from the Jedi who's just like, she's just kind of like, she's had her battles, but you know, there was no canon like way of creating a character in Knights 2 originally. It just makes it so then anybody who's new to the series can sort of like come along for the ride, but not have to research everything else first.
Yeah.
And you know, it's a lot of homework to do, especially with Star Wars. But I think Andor's biggest problem is that I think it's just the fact that it's boring. And I think George Lucas would say the same. I mean, his policy was always faster, more intense. He wanted stuff going on. And if it wasn't important to the story he was telling, he got rid of it.
Yeah.
Which is why you don't see a lot of the Clone Wars in the films. You see the beginning of it and you see the end of it, because they're the important parts.
Exactly.
Because, yeah, you know, you see the start of the Clone Wars, and the important part is that's when he fell in love with Padme. The end of the Clone Wars is when he became Darth Vader. So that's all you need.
Yeah.
So then when you've got a lot of these shows where the Andor does it, Obi-Wan does it, Ahsoka does it, they spend a lot of time on nothing. So it's like you'll watch a scene where Obi-Wan's cutting up fish. You'll watch Ahsoka standing in a bloody room for 10 minutes just looking around. You'll see bits in Andor where they're talking about like bureaucracy and stuff. It's like it can be done in small ways, but when you're spending 10 or 15 minutes on one thing, it can start to drag. And yeah, your TV show might have a lot more time, but it doesn't mean you can take the piss with your audience.
Right.
Your audience doesn't owe you their time. You owe them a good show.
Yeah.
Because your audience is your master. As a creator, your audience is your master. I cannot stress that enough.
Right. No, I fully agree. Very good point.
Yeah. You can't expect your audience to sit there if you're not providing anything of quality. And so if it's just two people in a room talking about absolutely nothing, it's like an example would be the novel Aftermath, where I think that was written by Chuck Wendig. I can't remember. Yeah, I think it was. But there's this bit where I think it's like 2 pages. They're just talking about these procedures at this mining facility. It's like, who is interested? You're talking about Star Wars. You're talking about Jedi, Sith. You're talking about cosmic warfare. You're talking about like these giant fucking fleet battles. Sorry, swearing.
You're good.
Alright. You're talking about these giant fleet battles and stuff like that. I don't want to watch somebody, or I don't want to listen to mining procedures. It's boring. Nobody cares. Just get to the meat of the story.
Right.
Like, there are so many Star Wars novels that I've read where I'm thinking back on it, I'm just like, you know, that could have been like 3 or 4 chapters shorter.
Yeah.
I even get to that, to be fair. This might sound like sacrilege, and I know a lot of people might seem this is sacrilege, but I feel the same way about Heir to the Empire. A lot of it is unnecessary. Like when you've got Pelion talking about how he would imagine the Battle of Endor going if Thrawn was there and not Vader. It's like, right, well, the Battle of Endor happened a certain way. You know, just get to the point. Get to the point of him meeting Thrawn. I don't want to have 2 pages of Pelion's thoughts while he's walking to Thrawn's chambers. Just have it start with him talking to Thrawn. It would cut out half of a chapter, and you get your book written faster. I feel like a lot of these writers are very self-indulgent.
I agree. No, I totally agree. Actually, yeah. Wow,
Yeah.
very good point. That's interesting because I write sometimes, and the only few Star Wars things I've written are all short stories because it feels like that's all it should be. I should do exactly what I intend to do in the story, and then it's done. Like, he should be as brief as possible. I couldn't imagine. You know. Yeah. Go ahead.
I mean, you look at when George was making Revenge of the Sith. If you look at the documentaries, he says he cheated a little bit because a lot of it is just their fight, and it's like, yeah, because you know the battles are the important part. It's Star Wars, not Star Talk.
Yeah. It's the new name for my podcast, Star Talk.
Yeah.
That's great. And then the thing you said earlier about how we need to view the world through the lens of someone who is just entering it, actually sort of helped me unpack something that I was wondering about. So, and this is completely unrelated, but Star Wars 1313, that video game, which we're all sad was canceled and everything.
Yeah.
The one thing I like, were it to happen, were it to be released and be done, the one thing that makes me really sad about it is that in the beginning, in that demo that we see, there's 2 guys. There's obviously like the grizzled, kind of crazy mercenary bounty hunter, whatever, and then he has like almost like an apprentice, right? There's that younger guy who's entering 1313, and he's very he fits the world because he's very like, I got this, I can do this. He's very much like the typical Star Wars hero. He's almost in a way he's like Luke in the first one, where he thinks he can do everything and he's kind of annoyed with everyone, and he's got like something to prove. Yeah, and I thought that was great. And then George, I don't know how you feel about this, but then George comes in and he's like, no, make it about Boba Fett. And so we know that what was supposed to happen is that you play as those 2 guys for a little bit, and then Boba Fett comes and kills them, and then you play as Boba Fett. Which is, to me, and now that you've mentioned like you have to view it through the world of someone who is just entering it, I think that's why I hate it so much. Like that's the most antithetical Star Wars thing you could do. Where like we're playing as this new young hero who's just entering this world, and then he just just fucking killed. Like as much as I love Boba Fett, like I hated that idea. It always bugged me, and I think that's exactly why. Like I want to play as that guy because you can kind of inject yourself into them and experience it through them. I love Boba Fett, but I wouldn't want him to kill that guy. I like that guy.
I agree and kind of disagree to a point.
Yeah.
Here's why. Because I feel like as long as there's enough there, in terms of like this new character, as long as there's enough there to introduce someone to the world, I think you're good. And then passing it off to another character who's got way more experience.
Okay.
That's fine as long as you do it well. In terms of like it's like a reverse passing of the torch. But again, I think with that first character, you have to do the onboarding of the universe like on point. There is no room for error with it. Otherwise, you'll have that disconnect where people are just lost with the changing narrative because of how different it is from going from a fresh character to an already established character.
Yeah.
But then I also feel like a new character would be cool, but then I think about it, I'm just like, yeah, but I want to play as Boba Fett. Who doesn't?
Right, yeah. I think there's a way they could have done that better, and I do admittedly get very attached to people, and like I just like the fact that it seems weird to like play as that guy. The fact that you would play as him would make me attached to him enough, and then to have him killed would be weird. I think it would have been cool. I mean, this is all just obviously we can just imagine. 1313 was in a lot of ways kind of like the Star Wars GTA. It seemed like it was going to be like that a lot. It would, just like GTA does, wouldn't it have been cool if we could play as all three of those characters? Like maybe they team up or something, and now, like depending on the mission you're doing, you can play as Boba or you can play as one of those other two guys. That would have been sick.
Yeah, that would have been cool. I would have liked that.
But yeah.
But then I've never felt as though, I mean, he does sometimes, but I've never felt Boba to be one person who sort of like teams up a lot of the time.
True.
He's very much a lone wolf.
Yeah,
gets the job done himself.
Their relationship would have to be very carefully done. Like they couldn't be buddies or anything, but they just like work together. Yeah.
Have to show up. Show up at certain points where it mattered.
Exactly, yeah, and it's like almost like a treat to play as Boba. Like you don't play as him that much, but it's like cool when you do. I don't know. I don't like the idea that they killed him.
One thing that I will say that I do like about him in The Mandalorian, first off, I love that scene where he comes back on Tython and beats the hell out of them stormtroopers. I think they did it very well. And the Slave One scene with the TIE fighters, chef's kiss. But one thing I do like is that when they assault the Dreadnought, Gideon's ship, Boba drops them off, but he doesn't go in with them. He's like, I'll drop you off, but I've got my own things to do.
Yeah.
And that's so Boba Fett.
That's very Boba,
Yeah, I feel like Tamora Morrison had a hand in that, and he was probably just like, no, Boba wouldn't stay in flight with them. He's got his own goals. He'd drop them off and get out of there. Do what he needs to do.
I agree. Yeah, and it is tough because like he is supposed to be not the best guy in the world, right? So it's like you can't have him be buddies with really anyone. But I don't think he's like this totally evil maniac who's just gonna kill everyone. So there is a way to have him be like almost this cool, neutral. Like you got to be careful how you act around him, but if your interests align, he will help you. Like that's the best type of Boba Fett that I think there can be.
Yeah, I think if sort of like Boba is one of them characters where he's a Mandalorian, so he might not be your friend, but if you're an honourable person and you don't double cross people like handed, he's at least gonna have your respect. So he might not hate you. He might not hate you, but he might not like you, but he doesn't hate you.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, which is cool. He seems so underutilized, and I still don't like the way he died in 6. It's so like goofy. You get the most badass guy, and he gets the most comical death. It's like, oh my god.
Yeah, I mean, I see Boba as wasted potential because I've heard a lot of things about how Jedi was supposed to go. I've heard a lot of different things, and one of the things that I come back to because I like the idea is Boba fitted into the archetype of the Green Knight. So one who was once an honourable figure, once a noble knight, fell, but then sees the error of his ways. Sorry, I can't even speak.
You're good.
Error of his ways, and then he might not be fully on the good side. He might not come back to the light fully, but he does something to help the hero along the way.
Wow, I've never heard that before. That's super interesting. That might be a whole video in itself. Wow, that is what he should be. Yeah.
It was Robert Meyer Burnett who was talking about it on a video I was watching once. I think it might have been FNT actually. But yeah, he mentioned it, and that's what drew my attention to it, because before he mentioned it, I wasn't aware of this concept. So I read into it what the Green Knight is, and yeah, I feel like, you know, Boba having green armor as well, it wasn't by accident. There was a lot in that.
Yeah, he is literally a Green Knight. Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, Mandalorians, you know, the way that they're conceived, they're almost like knights with guns.
Yeah, true. Wow,
So
that's super
it makes
interesting.
sense to me that.
Yeah, if you don't mind sending me that video after this call, I'll remind you. I'd love to listen to that. That's really super interesting.
Yeah, I'll have to find the FNT, because I'm sure that's where it was on. But I'll have to find that, and then, yeah, I'll find the timestamp for it.
Sure, take your time. Thank you, man. That's awesome. So, to wrap up, I know we got off topic, this was fine. If someone didn't know anything about Knights 2, but they were interested in playing it, but they were on the fence, what would you say to them to, like... What would be your sell... If you were selling this game, what would you say?
Honestly, I would probably say play the first one first, because it gives you a lot of context of Revan. I mean, Kreia can fill in the gaps once you leave Paragus, but it's better to play the first one, then you get the full context of what the Mandalorian Wars were, the Jedi Civil War and stuff. But if someone said, no, I want to skip straight to Knights 2, then I'd probably just say, probably watch some videos on Kreia, or watch some videos on the Jedi Masters, because they are the most interesting points of the game. And if what Kreia talks about interests you, then play the game, because then you'll understand it better. Though it would take multiple playthroughs to understand what she's saying, because I feel like you need to have both light side and dark side playthroughs to grasp everything.
That's really interesting. Yeah, I can't say I've ever done that before, actually. I always try to be the hero, but I'll have to, next time I play it, I'll get that mod that fleshes out the ending there, and then I'll do a dark side ending as well, dark side playthrough. It just puts such a bad taste in my mouth, you know.
Yeah. The reason I say it is because if you play on the light side, you spend a lot of the time listening to Kreia lecture you about things that you shouldn't do. Whereas if you play on the dark side, a lot of the times Kreia acknowledges it and she encourages it, and it's just interesting to see what she encourages and what she doesn't.
Whoa,
Such as, she discourages. She encourages the opposite of Yoda, in that Yoda encourages sort of like strength in the Force. When he says, "Luminous beings are we, not this crude matter," Kreia would say the opposite. That you know, isolation erodes us, conflict strengthens us. Machines of war are meant as things to test ourselves against, which is good, because it helps us grow our strength. But then she would say, do not rely on the Force, because it may not always be there to assist you. To rely on something that, like that that doesn't come from you naturally, is a weakness. So
right, I remember her saying that. Yeah. That's
yeah.
Cool.
So she likes it when you basically use ways of manipulating things without calling on the Force. So if you use your persuasion skill rather than a Jedi mind trick, there are certain times where she would approve of it. But using a Jedi mind trick, she wouldn't.
Wow.
Because it's just using the power for power's sake, not because you need it.
Yeah, what is a Jedi without the Force? I remember, yeah, that's cool.
Yeah.
Wow, very interesting. Yeah, no other Star Wars media besides, I guess, The Last Jedi, who does it in not a very great way, tackles that sort of question and that theme.
I think a lot of people could be scared to approach it because it's a very delicate subject, critiquing Star Wars, because very passionate fans can be. You don't want to piss people off, but you want to be able to critique it. Like, because at no point do I ever feel like the writer Chris Avellone hates Star Wars. I feel like he loves Star Wars just as much as we do, and he was just like, okay, so these are the things I don't like about the Force, and use Kreia as his mouthpiece.
Yeah. No, yeah, definitely. So would you say that Knights 2 is sort of the best question to the statement of what the Star Wars universe is and sort of the philosophy that it teaches?
Yeah, I mean, a lot of people do credit Kreia as sort of like being the anti-Yoda.
Yeah.
In how she sort of like talks about the Force and talks about how relying on yourself is the true strength. But in essence, in a lot of ways, like I said before, she's more like Qui-Gon, because like Qui-Gon, she accepts the living Force As she says, she hates that the Force seems to have a will of its own and controls the lives of others to achieve some sort of balance. Direct quote.
Right.
But yeah, Yoda doesn't really go into the living Force. He's more attuned to, I guess, what you would call the cosmic Force, which is just more the Force as a concept, as a being, as an entity. He never addresses sort of like the conscious will of the Force and how he made his opinion on it, basically. Whereas Qui-Gon does, and he encourages it, over the Jedi. He'd be like, if the Force tells me to do something, I'm going to do that over what Yoda will tell me. Whereas Kreia is just like, okay, the Force has a will of its own. I find that abhorrent. I want to destroy it.
Yeah, right, exactly. It's very interesting. And I think it is the perfect answer to the first game, because the first game has a lot of optimism, and the second one has optimism as well, but it's so much weaker, and everything is so much darker, that I think it answers the first game in a very powerful way. But at the same time, that's the issue a lot of people have with it, because I don't think they're used to that, and it's certainly like a Star Wars setting, and it does kind of blindside you in some places, but I think it's effective, and it doesn't do it just for the sake of doing it. It's not like gratuitous depression and darkness. It has, as you've said, it has a very important purpose, and it's asking a lot of very difficult questions that nothing else under the Star Wars umbrella has really asked before.
Yeah. There's one other thing I can think of. It's like, going back to the earlier discussion about the comparisons of Luke and stuff. Like you said, it has that optimism, but it's all like, it's like the dynamic has shifted where the optimism is minimal.
Yeah.
It's there, but it's minimal. I mean, you've got, like I said, you've still got the Jedi Masters, even though, like, Zez-Kyle himself may be completely disillusioned with the Jedi, he's not gone into full, what's the point of everything, I give up trying to save the galaxy. He's still out there, he's still fighting for good, he's still trying to be a hero. He just doesn't attach the Jedi to himself, because it's more a statement of how the Jedi and the Sith, they might be like separate ideologies, but sometimes they are very similar in how they go about things. But also, there isn't a complete white or blackness to them. Some
Exactly.
Sith can do good things, even if it's for selfish reasons. Some Sith can do good things. Jedi can do selfish things, even if it's for noble reasons.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
But it doesn't try to say that being a hero is bad, which I feel like The Last Jedi does, in some sense.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, it's almost like everyone's goalpost moves because of this tough situation that the galaxy is in, and because of that, their questions and their means about doing things get into more of a gray area. But it's not like everyone's just giving up. Things just kind of get tight and interesting, and it's like difficult, right? No one's just giving up. It's just they're in a tight spot, and they have to kind of question some things and again sort of move the goalpost to get out of this situation. But it's not just no one's throwing their lightsaber away.
Yeah, you could even argue that to a point, Kreia is the same, because she started off as a Jedi. She fell to the dark side after the war. She became a Sith. She was cast out of the Sith, but then her ideas on the Force changed because of that, because she'd been part of both ways of living and been excluded from both. But then she wants to kill the Force, but not because it's purely selfish. Her desire to kill the Force comes from this idea of freeing the galaxy,
Right.
from this oppressive, like, overlord. I mean, the game. What I like about the game is that while Kreia is telling you this stuff, the actual game's narrative and everything else that's going on is telling you the direct opposite. So it's basically telling you, Kreia might be this enigmatic figure that has a certain way of saying things, but she's still wrong.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. And that's a very important part of it. Is that the lens that we're viewing this story through is still very much Star Wars. There's not. Yeah, which is tough to do, and really strong writing to have a compelling character like Kreia that a lot of people are like, they kind of consider what she's saying and that she makes you think. But yeah, at the same time, you're right. The overall theme of the game subverts from what she's trying to teach the player. So it's very masterful writing. Yeah.
It's a hard balance to do, because for an unskilled writer, or I wouldn't say an unskilled writer, but for someone who's like not got experience in writing that way, it's very easy to sort of like make that disconnect.
Yeah.
Where you've got two narratives going, but they just don't make sense to each other. They don't complement each other at all. Whereas with KOTOR 2, they complement and contrast at the same time. And yeah, I wish I could be that good of a writer.
Right. Yeah. Yeah. And asking the questions that Kreia sort of poses opens up a whole other can of worms, and suddenly the premise that the light side and goodness is the right path is almost reinstated in a stronger way after everything that she has questioned.
Yeah, because even one of her final passages before she dies, she says that, because you ask her about Aton's future, and she says that the Force watches out for people like him, and then she says the Force even watches out for the old like me. Even in my hatred, like it's basically her reconciling the fact that she's hated the Force all this time, but even now it's still sort of like protecting her from death, because it's always been there, even if she hates it. It's always been there to save her life.
Very true.
And she's come to rely on it herself, as she admits. So I do like that there's enough introspection there with her in her final moments that she almost goes back to being Aaron Kai again.
Right. Yeah, this is very beautiful, yeah.
Yeah, not completely, but it's almost like, it feels like she knows.
There's some part of her in there that still knows.
Yeah, she's realized that she spent a lot of time hating the Force, and it's consumed her. And that hatred has brought her to this point, and she realizes that she may have been wrong.
Yeah, I totally get that. Yeah, that's really cool. And so like Luke, she's in this situation where she's disillusioned with the Force and the Jedi and that whole premise. But unlike Luke, where Luke just straight up gave up and ran away, she has like a new mission in order to do something about her new frame of mind, which is also very much more Star Wars than just straight up giving up, I would say.
Yeah, because it reaches onto that upper sort of like that cosmic level, which Star Wars, it's always been there. I mean, you've got a lot of stuff where it can be interesting to have the mundane aspects, but through and through, Star Wars is about the Force, and it's about the more abstract themes. I feel like the war is the backdrop. The battleground, the true battleground, is like the characters. It's the morality. It's within the Force.
The real battleground was the inner mind, not the planets. Yeah, exactly.
Because it's like whether they can feel the Force or not, all life is attuned to the Force, and all life will either influence the light side or the dark side. So all of it is the cosmic warfare, and the Force. I feel like there's some level of what Kreia is saying is right, that it uses like the beings of the universe to create its own balance, to fix itself, but I don't think it does it sort of like, I don't think there's an evil mind at play. It's just what is.
Exactly.
It's just what happens. It's like breathing air. It just is.
I totally agree, man. Yeah, it's always a pleasure talking with you.
Likewise.
Yeah, and Knights of the Old Republic is one of the strongest Star Wars stories ever. Like I kind of hold it next to the movies in a lot of respects, for sure, because it is so strong, and that's what scares me about the remakes and stuff, because it's like don't touch something that's already kind of perfect.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah, it's always a treat to talk to you about it. So I hope anyone listening has gained some new insight and made you want to play Knights 1 and 2 again.
Likewise, and if you haven't, then I hope you enjoyed the conversation and just reliving old memories of the game, because I imagine there's probably stuff we've talked about where people are going to be like, oh yeah, I remember that.
Yeah, you jogged my memory a lot too, so yeah, I'm sure they will.
Yeah, like I said, it's fresh in my head. I only completed it again last night. I've lost count of it many times now. But put it this way, on Steam alone, because I have it on every platform that exists at this point. On Steam alone, I think it's somewhere between 2,500 hours.
Whoa! All right, yeah, you're the real historian here, man.
Yeah, I try to be. Well, I say I try to be. I don't try to be. It's just you play through these games so many times, you get to a point where you know every dialogue sequence. You know where to get the right influence from certain characters. You know where certain loot may drop. Well, most of it's RNG, but there's set items like Frieden Nad's lightsaber and stuff.
Mm.
But yeah, and that's another thing as well. We were talking about how it all interconnects, and you brought up the stuff with 𝘊𝘆𝘆𝘕𝘈𝘆 and the Tales of the Jedi comics. When you hear 𝘊𝘆𝘆𝘆𝘆 and Exar Kun mentioned in those games, and then you can find like 𝘊𝘆𝘆𝘆𝘆's robes.
I always wear his robes. Yeah, I was about to say that. I always wear the robes. Yeah.
Or when you go to Frieden Nad's tomb on Duxon, not only is that you've got the Tales of the Jedi stuff there, but you've got Bane, the Bane trilogy when he goes to Frieden Nad's tomb and gets the obelisk armor because the beetles fall on. It's just one of those things where it's just like, oh wow, I'm actually in Frieden Nad's tomb. This place that's been spoken about so much in the comics, in the novels. I'm here. It's an actual thing around my character. I can see it. I can interact with it. So it's just one of them cool things. And then they use Korriban as well for both games.
Right.
I still come back to that issue of not liking 𝘊𝘆𝘈𝘕𝘛𝘌𝘙 cast because it's not the same planet as it is in Mysteries of the Sith. The Jedi Knight expansion where he plays Mara Jade.
Yeah.
𝘊𝘆𝘆𝘆𝘆𝘆 is in that when Kyle turns to the dark side. Obviously, it's like thousands of years removed, but it's still, to me, in that game, 𝘊𝘆𝘆𝘆𝘆 feels much like Korriban or Malachor, how it's a Sith world, but they've sort of like left it. It's like a Sith outpost or whatever. I feel like it should have been that way. I don't like it being the capital.
Yeah, I get that. I think they just did it for like convenience for them,
Yeah.
I don't know.
To me, the trailer implies like when you have the trailer where Malgus and Vindican are fighting the Jedi on the in the hangar. I can't remember what they're called. The Jedi. Satele Shan and the other one. There's that black dude. But when that cutscene is like Korriban is ours again, you feel like that's going to be the new seat of the Empire. It almost sets it up for that. But then when it's like, oh well, we're just using Korriban as the old Academy, it's like that's all you're going to do.
Yeah. Right.
It feels like it's almost like a rug pull because I was excited to see what the Sith had done to Korriban upon the return. But then when it's just the Academy and it's like what you spend like it's basically you start a planet for the Sith and then you go back there in Act 3 for both Sith characters and it's just like I wish there would have been more of Korriban.
Agreed. Yeah, no, I totally agree. And the 𝘊𝘆𝘆𝘆𝘆 robes or the 𝘊𝘆𝘆𝘆𝘆 robes were in 1, but then in 2 we have the entire planet of Onderon, which is 𝘊𝘆𝘆𝘆𝘆 and his buddy's first Jedi mission is to like go to Onderon, and so this fact that there's the whole planet there that's from Tales of the Jedi is just so cool. It was so fun.
You're getting other characters crop up like Arca Jeth and Thon because you can get their robes as well.
Oh man, so cool, dude! I didn't even know that Arca Jeth's robes. Where do you get those?
The random loot. If you get on Nar Shaddaa, the best chance of getting them because a lot of loot is tied to your level. And I think it's got to be something like near level 30 or something like that. But on Nar Shaddaa, there's this character called Fasa, and on the base game he's a Twi'lek. On the restored content, he's a Toydarian. But you do his quest, and then he'll give you a random reward based on your level, and you can get like on higher levels you can get some of those Jedi robes on it. You can even get Malak's robes, which are simply just a retextured what's it called? 𝘊𝘆𝘆𝘆𝘆 robe, but
it's still. I mean, the fact that it is what it is. Like, 𝘊𝘆𝘆𝘆𝘆's robes are just like brown or something, but in the comic book they're like blue and red. Like they're really colorful and like it looks cool. It's very distinct, but it's still cool that like the name is really what matters, right? Like just labeling it as that thing is just as you said feels like you're at some like famous historical site or you're like looking at some famous historical object,
Yeah,
it's cool. Yeah.
Well, I don't know if it was specifically Ulick's, but it does say 𝘊𝘆𝘆𝘆𝘆𝘆.
Yeah, 𝘊𝘆𝘆𝘆𝘆𝘆 robes. I think it's like someone else's, but even still, yeah.
Yeah, I mean, with it being a Jedi and stuff, I always felt like it was Ulick's.
Yeah.
Because he was buried on Renvar. It doesn't mean he died though.
Right. Yeah. True. I think. I want to say like it said it was not Cade's his brother, but someone closely related to him, but I've seen mods where they even repackage paint the robe to make it the 𝘊𝘏𝘕𝘈𝘈𝘛𝘛𝘌𝘙 colors and stuff. So that's kind of fun.
Yeah, I mean, I've always thought about when I was playing Fallen Order. I always thought Cal Kestis looks like a young, sort of like less built 𝘊𝘏𝘓𝘕𝘈𝘈.
True.
Like you could do a figure. Like if you took a Black Series like Cal Kestis figure, you could quite easily make a custom 𝘊𝘏𝘓𝘈𝘈.
Ooh, that's a good point. I've actually been meaning to commission the guy I like who makes custom figures and do a whole Tales of the Jedi set. So I might
That'd be nice.
Yeah, man, possibilities.
I'd love a Darth Bane Black Series figure.
That would be sick. Wow.
But without the Orbelesque armor, because I prefer him without it.
Yeah, the armor's a little intense, a little much.
Yeah.
He just kind of becomes the armor.
I like how it's described in the novel, but how they did it in the comic prior, like in the 1999, the way he looks in the comic, I'm not a fan. I don't mind the armor, it's just the mask. I do not like the mask at all. It looks silly. If it had been something where it was like a more all-over face cover, where it looks more like some kind of like cybernetic mask, but it's organic, because it's beetles, then again, it's not Orbelesque, is it? It's special mask he wears to keep them from going on his face. My bad.
Right.
But still, it just looks silly.
Yeah, is it the one with all the lines and stuff?
Yeah, it kind of looks like sea coral.
Yeah, that's right. That's a good way of putting it.
Yeah, I like his lightsaber as well. Well, the way it's described, how it's like great dragon bone. I've always thought that was
really
cool.
Do you prefer him just with like the black robes like he is on the cover?
Yeah. Basically, to me, he's always sort of like been like Darth Malgus, but without the cybernetics.
Yeah.
Like that's how I've always viewed Bane. So yeah, I'm not a fan of the mask.
Interesting.
To be fair, it's better than his appearance in the Clone Wars.
I don't even know what he looks like in the Clone Wars.
You can probably Google it because it's when Yoda goes to Korriban. They renamed it to Morrigan.
Oh, is that like his whole samurai armor?
Yeah, when he's voiced by Mark Hamill.
Yeah,
I'm not a fan of that because it just doesn't look like Bane at all.
Yeah,
and what's more annoying is that he was originally meant to appear in the Mortis arc as one of the ghosts that the son was talking to, along with Revan. And they used a Bane model that was true to Bane's description in the novels. But then, come Series 6, and they just drastically changed him, and it's weird.
That's too bad. Yeah, I don't like it when they do that.
Yeah, he looks more like a poor man's Tulak Horde, to be honest.
Stupid. Yeah, they got no respect. That's what I'm talking about, man. They just mess with stuff that's already established because they know that they legally can. So it's just sad. It's too bad.
Yeah, I mean, to me, it's always going to be bad what they did to the expanded universe, but it wouldn't have been as bad, I don't think, if they have either when they replaced it, had something better, which, to be fair, it's very subjective, so what's actually better, it's up to the audience, but, at least make a solid attempt to make something good. Or if they'd have just continued both continuities like a lot of, comic books do. How it's like, we've got a new run coming out, but we're still gonna do the old stuff because that's what people are still reading.
Yeah.
You had the unfinished story of Crucible. You had Sword of the Jedi coming out as well, and they just axed it, and it's like there were people waiting for that.
I know, yeah, I know there were people waiting for that. There really were. I know, it's so sad, dude. Yeah, Crucible, and Sword of the Jedi. Oh man, what could have been?
Yeah.
Oh well.
Yeah.
All right, guys.
I get the feeling that at some point we'll find a full. We'll find it full out online somewhere. Someone will leak it.
Yeah. Was it were they fully done? Do you think? I didn't even consider that.
Yeah. They were just. I think, as far as I'm aware, for Sword of the Jedi, before they cancelled it, the very first pre-orders were up on Amazon, but then they cancelled the pre-orders, so it was there, it was ready. So they've just kind of it was written, it was ready to go, and they've just binned it.
Holy moly.
Yeah.
Jeez. Yeah, someone's got to get in contact with those writers and leak it.
Yeah, one of my mates, my mate Bryn, he was so devastated by it because I'd probably say he when it comes to the expanded universe, Bryn's got kind of my historian. He's my Leyland Chi.
Wow.
Because he's got pretty much every novel that exists.
Shoot.
Yeah.
We'll have to have him on sometime too.
Maybe.
That'd be
I can always chat to him and see what he says.
Please do.
But yeah, yeah. I mean, I know. I'd say with the expanded universe, I've read the what people would say the crucial stories, and then I've obviously gone into my own things like like some of the comics and stuff. Or one of the storylines that I do love is the Bounty Hunter Wars, that trilogy. Massive fan of that. Massive fan of hard merchandise. I think it's one of the better novels that doesn't contain Jedi. Let's just say that.
For sure, yeah.
Yeah, I love the double cross between Boba, Zuckuss, and Bosk. How Zuckuss is like all this time pretending to be dead.
Yeah.
And then he's like, "Oh yeah, but I don't. But by the way, I can just breathe. I can just turn off my breathing apparatus. I'm fine."
Right. Yeah, that's cool.
And fake my death. And then well, yeah, very good book.
Yeah, that whole look at the world is cool. The Coruscant Nights books are cool, and then I'm in the middle of reading Shadow Games. I'm a big Dash Rendar fan, and that's like the only other book that he's in. That's like young Dash Rendar.
Yeah.
It's really cool. Yeah.
Oh, did you see the cover that they did for the re-release of Shadows of the Empire?
Yeah, I don't like how they made Dash look. I don't like they got the new figure for him too, and he just looks like a dumb jock. Like I didn't like it.
Yeah. I see. I had a bit of a debate with someone about this. I don't even think that Dash and Boba should have really been on that cover.
Yeah, they're not in it much.
I was gonna say I know they appear, but they're not in it much. Yeah, I mean they appear in the comics and obviously the game, but yeah.
Dash isn't it like a little, and then Boba Fett is like barely there. So yeah, it's weird to have him on the cover.
Yeah, I think the old cover is still fantastic.
Old cover's beautiful.
Yeah. Although if I was gonna do a new one, I'd simply do a new interpretation of it, something that you get a glimpse of but you don't actually see, where you see Vader have his vision, and he has his vision with Luke on the canyon, and they're just about to fight and stuff, and then he has that moment where he sort of like he briefly comes back to the light, and then he feels all his pain again, and it brings him back to the circle of anger. It's a really beautiful moment in the novel. Yeah. The soundtrack that goes with it, the CD that they released, the track Night Skies that goes with it.
Yeah.
Really well done piece of music.
Yeah, that soundtrack is incredible, dude. My God. Yeah.
Yeah. For a lot of reasons, I do consider that to be like Darth Vader's story. As much as she's awesome. But yeah, I just feel like Dash and Boba shouldn't really be on that cover.
I agree. I fully agree. Yeah. I think it's like on the back of the original cover, Dash is like far away on his speeder on a swoop bike. And like that's cool. Yep. It's cool to see him like in the distance, because that is his function in the book. So it makes more sense. Yeah.
Yeah. And again, with him being on the back, it implies he's a bit character that's going to show up, but he's not. He's not in it enough that we're going to advertise it to you on a bookshelf.
Exactly. Yeah. I agree. Yeah, it was a weird move.
Yeah. Well, it's what Disney do, isn't it? Key jangling. So it's like, oh, remember Dash Rendar? Well, he's not in this book. Well, not much, but you're gonna buy it anyway because you think he is.
Yeah, no, I was so pumped when I heard that the Hasbro was making one, because they usually do a good job with the expanded universe stuff. But that was just unfortunate. It's okay. I actually have 2 customs of him, and I like them both a lot, so it's all good.
The only one I really take, expanded universe wise, the only 2 I really take an issue with are Darth Nihilus and Zalbar, because with the Darth Nihilus figure, the legs are just Darth Maul's, and he's too short, and so like a bit squat. Nihilus is really tall. You're talking like he should be taller than Dooku.
It's true.
Because the Dooku figure's quite tall, like accurate to Christopher Lee. But then the Nihilus figure, they put Maul's legs on him, and he's just way too short. So I ended up taking an Episode 7 Kylo Ren, taking the robe off that, so the robe was a bit more accurate.
Oh,
I put burning in it and stuff, and scoring in it, so then it looks a bit more ruined like Nihilus is. And then I kind of just cut the torso and put some modeling clay in there to make it a bit taller.
Wow. Do you ever post these anywhere? You should have like an Instagram for your action figures. I post
I used to. I used.
Where you should post them again. I'd like to see them.
I just don't really use it anymore.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, well, I've done. I've done the Nihilus. I did a bit of a custom job on that. I have built a Darth Plagueis figure, and I did build a Lord Starkiller figure, but they were hand done because I don't have a 3D printer or anything. so you can sort of like see that they're hand done. So they're a bit inaccurate, but you know, I think it gives them that handcrafted charm.
Yeah, no, I was about to say that's really impressive. What I tried to do, I really like the Jango Fett Open Seasons comics, and I bought a bunch of Jango Fett action figures, and I tried to like paint them to make them like the right color or whatever, and I like looked up like how to do it and stuff. I was terrible at it, so that's when I eventually found this custom maker that I really like, and I just commissioned him to do all of them. And there's some of the coolest. I'll show you pictures later, but some of the coolest toys I have like every single Mando that appears in the Open Seasons comic books. That's just hard. So like, my hat's off to you for getting that far. I'd never do that.
Yeah. You talk. I've not done it for a few years, to be honest, because the reason I was thinking about that when I said with Cal Kestis is because I did have plans to do a 𝘊𝘆𝘆𝘕𝘈, but then I kind of just lost a bit of the heart for it because I had other things going on at the time.
Sure.
But yeah, it is something I'd like to revisit. It's just now I've just got to resupply all my paints and stuff and figure out how much that's going to cost.
Yeah, and Ulick would be particularly tough because he's got all like his outfit's crazy. Like, it's really cool, but it's so specific. He has like those coins, depending on what cover you look at or like what comic book you look at. I like the one from, I think it's like the first one, where he's standing and like the other Jedi are behind him. You see all their lightsabers like in a row behind him.
Yeah.
And he has like this belt across him, and then he has these little gold coins like hanging off of his robe, and it's like the red and blue thing. It's so beautiful. It looks like exactly what an ancient Jedi should look like, you know. But I feel like it would be tough to acquire all that crap because like it's so unique. Yeah.
I feel like you could do it if you use something like green stuff, which is like, you know, modeling clay, but it's what Warhammer people use for doing custom like bits and stuff.
Yeah.
Because it starts off with like it's almost like putty, but then when it sets, it's as hard as like really good durable plastic. So I use that. I use modeling clay, but I use that as well. You know, like for head sculpts and stuff like that.
Yeah, smart.
So I could mold the individual pieces. It's just those little coins are going to be really finicky.
Yeah, exactly.
Really finicky and really time consuming. But I've got ways of doing it.
Wow.
Yeah, it can be done.
Shoot, keep me posted, man. That's exciting.
Yeah. I'll just have to get back into it at some point.
Absolutely. All right. Well, thank you so much for talking, dude. It's always a pleasure. I hope to have you back on soon, and
of course.
I hope the audience learned some things and enjoyed.
Likewise.
Take care.